Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back to Grameenphone presents the TheNaveedMahbubShow এবং আজকের আমাদের অতিথি উনি শুধু এই উপমহাদেশেরই নয় আমার মনে হয় এই পুরো বিশ্বের একজন বিশিষ্ট নিউরোসার্জন প্লিজ ওয়েলকাম ডক্টর পল হেনরি Ladies and gentlemen, and not only is he a brilliant doctor, he's also the head of neurosurgery at Apollo Hospital in Chennai, and he was also the head neurosurgeon at Square Hospital in Dhaka for the last 3 years, and he has definitely seen a lot of the inside of a lot of brains in this country, right, Dr. Paul?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, welcome to the show, and I really appreciate your coming. So, what brings you to Dhaka this time?
Well, I was here to see a patient in the National Heart Foundation.
Okay.
A journalist's wife, a journalist who died recently, about a month ago.
Okay.
His wife was seriously ill, and I was called in to take a look at her, so that's what I'm here for 3 days.
Okay. Well, we really are glad to see you here. And tell us about your 3 years of stay in Dhaka. I know you've had some very interesting experiences, you know, like you've had to open up the heads of a lot of people over here. Was there anything interesting you saw? Because we do work in a rather interesting way, you know? What's the silence about? I mean, I asked you the question.
Well, the brain looks the same, I guess, everywhere. The
Man. I thought you were going to give me some different answer that would really put an endorsement to all the quote-unquote racist people. So that means we're all the same, right? You know, they said that when you cut, it's red inside, and when you open up the brain, it's all inside, unless you look at my twisted brain, right?
Yeah, well, I haven't got a chance to open yours. Maybe I'd change my view then.
Okay, you will change my view. So, Paul, you know, I've come to know you over the past several months, actually. And in fact, we met at this place, the Naveed's Comedy Club. And I remember the first time I met you, you were in the audience, and I was making a lot of fun of you. And then I found out you're this big neurosurgeon. If I known that, I would never have said that, because we always have this impression that doctors are very serious, you know, you cannot mess with them. But you're very different, you know. I mean, and it's great, by the way. It's a great compliment. You know, you're staring at me as if you're going to say, Naveed, I love you. No.
That's what I said the last time I met you.
Yeah, I know. You've been hitting on me. You know, this is not good, my friend. No, but Paul, on a serious note, as I said, you're a very atypical doctor. You know, and why is that? I mean, were you always like this, or did you have a mission that, no, you know what, I'm going to just put a more human angle to this whole profession? You know, what's your take?
I was just born mentally challenged, I think.
Well, I'm not going to complain that. If all doctors are as mentally challenged as you are, you know what? I will not mind being a patient. In fact, I've actually also seen you in action in Chennai, Apollo, and people almost treat you like God. I mean, they love to, take your opinion. And one thing I've seen, ladies and gentlemen, is that this guy is a surgeon, and he always tries to keep people away from surgery. That's very atypical, right? And you have a very famous quotation on that. What is that?
Yeah, well, this has been my mission to an extent, to make medicine and the practice of especially a specialty like neurosurgery, which is looked upon like it's, you know, the devil's visiting your home. So
I can vouch for that when he does visit my home.
And he invited me to dinner this evening.
Oh, okay. In Bangla, there's a saying, you will not get it. Khal kete kumirana. Why did you laugh? You didn't get that. If I translate that, it's going to get lost in translation. But, you know, I'll translate it to you, okay? I mean, it means that I'm going to have a great guest at home.
Oh.
All right, let's pray, continue.
So I've always wanted to do that, because neurosurgery in itself is a very, very morbid specialty, and people tend to think, like in the yesteryears, cardiac surgery was looked upon as if, you know, you go into the operating room, you come out dead. Now that myth has got washed away, stays with neurosurgery even now. Most people don't want to have their engine hoods opened and people taking a look into it, partly because they fear death, partly because they're afraid there's nothing inside. Perhaps somebody's going to find that out. So I've been trying to change that to an extent by making it a little lighter for the people who come to us, making ourselves a little bit more approachable, which is why I used to wear those scrubs in the hospital I don't wear a tie. So the appearance also makes them comfortable, and I get friendly with people. So that's been my mission. And I've, to an extent, succeeded in doing that, making it a little bit more acceptable to our patients.
Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, I think that's the way to go. But I mean, does it ever happen? I mean, you're a very young guy, and you come like this, and somebody says, "Oh, you know what? My brain's all messed up. I want to see the neurosurgeon." Then you walk in. I say, "Yeah, can you tell me when the neurosurgeon is going to come?" I'm the neurosurgeon.
Yeah, it happens to me every so often.
Really?
Every so often, especially elderly people who come and they start. I used to have these assistants in my office taking the history and doing the examinations and stuff. So I'd be sitting in a corner flipping through a book. At the end of it, these guys would say, "Sir, so what do we want to do with this?" And then these old people would turn around and say, "He's the neurosurgeon?" And very apologetically, I say, "I'm really sorry, but unfortunately, I am the one." So,
I mean, I'm trying to picture the scene. You're in your office, and this patient is there, your assistants are there, and you just mentioned that, you're sitting there flipping a book. I don't think they looked at you and made that statement. They looked at the book, and I'm not going to say what kind of book you're reading. They said, "Oh my God, this guy is going to open up my brain. Oh my God."
If they'd seen the book I was reading, they would have asked me if I was a urologist.
I know. Or the title of the book was Gray's Anatomy for Dummies. I'm just kidding. But Paul, I'm really trying to get that very interesting quote you told me once, and how about this? That's going to lead to a lot of interesting philosophical discussions, rather. But we're going to have to take a small commercial break, and once we come back, we're going to talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Grameenphone presents the Naveed Mahbub Show, and if you are a subscriber of Grameenphone, please dial 1234 if you don't want to see my face or his face, but you can listen to our funny conversation. Banglaয় বলছি গ্রামীণফোনের গ্রাহকরা 1234 ডায়াল করে এই অনুষ্ঠানের অডিও শুনতে পারবেন। ছোট্ট একটা ব্রেক নিয়ে আসছি, চলে যাবেন না, কেননা রয়েছেন ডক্টর পল হেনরি, and of course I'm Naveed Mahbub. Short break. Okay. Welcome back. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Grameenphone presents the Naveed Mahbub Show. এবং আমার সাথে রয়েছে neurosurgeon Dr. Paul Henry. Paul, good to have you here once again. And right before the break, we were talking about you telling us about your famous quote about good, exceptional surgeons. What is that?
Yeah, this is not exactly my quote. Our teachers used to tell us that good surgeons know how to operate. That's what we've learned to do.
I hope so.
So I leave the rest.
Yeah. Please, pray continue.
And excellent surgeons know when to operate. That's also taught to us. But there's one bit that is not taught, but something that you acquire over years and gray hairs. And it's exemplary surgeons who know when not to operate.
No, I think that's a great.
So that's something I've always remembered.
I think that's very true. Recently I was at Apollo Chennai Hospital with my father, and that's the experience I got when doctors came and they kind of laid out the options. And in fact, it was almost like what they say is a good general. What a good general does is that he knows how to fight a war, but he also knows much better how to not fight a war. And I think that was the kind of experience we got, and I think that is really the absolute essence of it. So now when you give that philosophy. Now here it is, you were saying, people are saying, okay, this young doctor, he looks like Rajinikanth 20 years younger, and then he's reading Gray's Anatomy for Dummies, and then you say, oh, you know what, you don't need a surgery, which is what you mean seriously. Now, what kind of reaction do you get in that case, where people always expect, oh, you know what, I got a headache, do a surgery? What?
Yeah, in Bangladesh, the reaction was very different from what I expected it to be after my experience elsewhere. People actually want to have surgery. So sometimes, like small lesions, small tumors, which don't need to be removed, you could just follow them up over a couple of months. It used to take a lot more work to tell them not to undergo surgery than to say, okay, come along. It's only going to cost you 100,000 takas and let's have it done. They would have perhaps been happier, but with time and a lot of explaining, they end up being happier. And then when they come for the next follow-up, they're pretty much convinced. And as you rightly said, my looks, though I'm 47 years old, my looks don't say that, unfortunately.
I know, you do look 65.
So then they tend to disbelieve me sometimes, and we do get patients going around. They do a bit of shopping, and then they come back to us saying, actually, you were right. We didn't need to undergo surgery.
So, Paul, let me ask you this question. I mean, of course, everything is bottom line, you know. I mean, thing you said, for profit, there's nothing wrong being for profit. But are you popular with hospitals, you know? If you
No,
go
I'm not.
they say, you know what, we don't need this surgery. And then they say, what, we could have made $1 million on this surgery. I mean, do you get that kind of a flag from the management, you know?
Well, if you're really working the right way, there's enough work to do without having to overstep your limits. So like we were doing about 50 surgeries a month, and I was single-handed. That's about as much as I could do, given about 20 days of work to 22 days of work a month. 50 neurosurgical operations was a big haul for us.
Yeah, that's
And that was more than enough money for the hospital, and none of those crossed the, you know, that gray line of whether they needed surgery or did not need surgery. We never crossed that line. The ones who didn't need it, didn't get it.
Oh, that's good. So you maintain that medical necessity. But I mean, let me ask you one thing. You know, I do come from the corporate background, you know, where the KPI, the key performance indicator, is always sales target, you know. Do you have like a, Dr. Paul Henry, this month's target is 55 neurosurgeries. Anything short of that, you're fired. No,
Yeah,
that doesn't happen, right?
Yes, I do. I would not stay long enough to hear that.
Oh, okay, all right.
I would leave before that. There are hospitals that do that.
Okay, so
There are places in India that do that. They fix a target for you. By the time they fix a target, they would have seen my heel. I would have left.
okay, so
So I've not waited long enough to go through that.
okay, that's cool. I think that this is how it should be. So the hospitals saw your heel, but the hospital management was saying that Dr. Paul Henry is our Achilles heel, you know? I think that's probably the case. But you know what? God bless you, Dr. Paul Henry, because, you know, you've made the lives of a lot of people really well, and I think he deserves a big round of applause. And unfortunately, we've reached the end of our time, you know, and I know you have got a flight to catch. I really appreciate your making time to come here, and maybe you could have seen one more patient, but, you know, that's his tough luck. So, ladies and gentlemen, আমাদের সাথে আজকে ছিলেন ডক্টর পল হেনরি, হেড অফ নিউরোসার্জারি ফ্রম অ্যাপোলো হসপিটাল। আবারও মনে করিয়ে দিচ্ছি, যারা গ্রামীণ ফোনের গ্রাহক, তারা এই অনুষ্ঠানের অডিও শুনতে পারবেন 1 2 3 4 ডায়াল করে, এবং অনুষ্ঠান যদি ভালো লেগে থাকে আগামী সপ্তাহে আবার আপনাদের সাথে দেখা হবে, এবং আপনারা যদি দর্শক হিসেবে এখানে আসতে চান, মোস্ট ওয়েলকাম, ইটস ফ্রি। সুতরাং আপনার সাথে বিদায় নিচ্ছি আমি নবীদ মাহবুব, এই চমৎকার দর্শক মণ্ডলী এবং ডক্টর পল হেনরি। দর্শক হিসেবে অংশগ্রহণের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন আমাদের ফেসবুক পেজ দ্য নভীদ মাহবুব শোর মাধ্যমে। এই অনুষ্ঠান ধারণ করা হয়েছে নভীদস কমেডি ক্লাবে।